Lance Meadow with you here on GoColumbiaLions.com as we get set to usher in the start of the 2023 campaign, Columbia visiting Lafayette on Saturday. And to help set the stage for the new season, we bring in the interim head coach, Mark Fabiish. Coach, greatly appreciate the time. Looking forward to this year. How's everything on your end?
Great. Thanks for having me, Lance. Looking forward to the season and to having the opportunity to visit with you throughout.
Absolutely. Now, let's start with what the last 30 days has been like, because the big announcement came where you were promoted to interim head coach, and you've been focusing mainly on the offensive side of the ball. So what has it been like to now put your stamp on every facet of this team? Yeah,
with respect to the coaches on both sides of the ball, I've tried to do as much on an administrative end, really just to make sure that everyone is, to use our term, pulling in the same direction. I mean, that has been first and foremost in everything that we've done from August 4th to today. It's just making sure that we're all going in the same direction with narrow focus, and that we're doing everything we can to be prepared for Lafayette come this Saturday.
Now, I think one of the interesting dynamics in play is you called the plays since you arrived here at Columbia. Joe D'Orazio, who's been on staff as the running backs coach, now taking over those duties. What has the dynamics been like between the two of you, and how challenging has it been for you to now maybe relinquish those responsibilities?
Well, it's been very different. First, being out of practice, not being responsible for a position or a side of the ball, and really standing in the middle as much as I could. And that has been more prevalent this week as we've transitioned from preseason into regular season, where the defense is on one side of the field and the offense is on the other, and making sure that I'm standing in the middle, where my focus really has been with my back to the defense the entire time, just looking at the offense. And so going back and forth has been an interesting transition for me, but one that I'm very much enjoying, and just continuing to cultivate the relationships with both sides of the ball. We ask a lot of our guys, and I think the better that they know me, the more that I know them, the more fair it is to ask of them to give everything that they have for these 10 Saturdays and all the days in between in preparation. And so if I didn't build those relationships, I think the request would be a little bit hollow. And so I've done everything that I can since this transition has been made to really try and cultivate the relationships with all 110 on the roster and all 11 on the staff, so that, again, when it comes time to ask of, they know that it's coming from a place of sincerity, and that they trust that my request is with the best interest of Columbia in mind. And then in regards to my relationship with Joe, I asked him to do it because I trust him, and there are any number of guys on our offensive staff could have done it. John McLaughlin, Sky Morningwig, Jerry Taylor, all of them have the ability and knowledge as coaches, and I have all the trust in the world in all of them. But just in sitting next to Joe for the last 4 seasons upstairs, heading into this season prior to the transition, he and I were very much aligned in what we saw the 2023 offense looking like. We had a lot of talks in the summer just about some schemes and again, the overall direction, and so thought that it would be hoping that my transition to head coach would be seamless, hoping that asking him to do it would be as seamless as well from an offensive perspective.
Now, speaking of the offensive perspective, one key decision you had to make going into the season was the quarterback. You had 2 that played last season, Joe Green the first 5, Caden Bell the second 5. Two-parter for you. Number one, how better is the depth chart that you have both guys fully healthy this year? And what did Caden show you in the final 5 games that maybe excites you entering this season in terms of how much more you can get out of him?
Yeah, I think anytime that you have 2 quarterbacks, it allows you to move forward with confidence. You don't have to hold anything back and say, if something were to happen, can we run the same offense with the backup? Right now, the answer to that question is unequivocally yes. And so that is a luxury that not a lot of people have. And right now, you look at Lafayette, their backup had to go in and start against Duke, and they had a pretty seamless transition, and Dean DeNoble did a phenomenal job for them, down in Durham this past weekend. But and so I think that they're feeling pretty similar as well. I do like our 2 guys, and Caden at the end of last season, specifically the last 3 games, showed a tremendous ability to do more than the average play call that I put out there. He was able to win games outside of what the play may be called for him to do, specifically against Harvard, then again against Brown, and his ability on the line of scrimmage to control what the offense was doing against Cornell was tremendous. And so Caden gives us that element of the play might be designed to gain 4, and Caden might be able to turn that into more than that.
Essentially going above the X's and O's based on what you're describing. I think another luxury, Coach, when you look at this roster is not only do you have 2 fully healthy quarterbacks, you're bringing back your top 3 wide receivers from last season, and that doesn't happen with most college teams. So how beneficial is that specifically for your quarterback in terms of him being able to play off of those playmakers?
Yeah, that's one of the things that in communicating with other staffs around the league is people know who our receivers are. You know, people know who Jadel Jenkins is. People know who Marcus Littman is. People know who Bryson Canty is, and people know who Wills Meyer is. And so the 4 of them really give our offense the opportunity to not allow opposing defenses to roll coverage one way or the other, and if you choose to do so, then that leaves them potentially vulnerable somewhere else. And so it's incumbent upon us to find those vulnerabilities as a coaching staff, but also on the quarterback to distribute the ball properly. But they've all shown an ability to make plays in key situations, and those 3 games that I mentioned with Caden, it all ties into one of the receivers making a play as well. And so they've all shown the ability to do it, and now we have to go out and do it again in 2023.
Now, Luke Payton also made a lot of plays, though Columbia fans are going to notice he's lining up in a different spot this season as he makes the transition to the offensive line, and he really has transformed his body. What was the conversation like in indicating that you have confidence in him moving into that role, and what are the expectations for him at that spot? Well,
the expectations are for him to be better at it today than he was yesterday, and to be better at it tomorrow than he is today. And he's a great ball of clay in that he's willing to put in the effort to achieve that goal, to hit that expectation. He's learning every day, and he's working towards it. He has some unique skills. He's got a unique body type that he's 6'6" plus, and he's now north of 300 pounds, with the athletic ability to run routes and to catch balls and to make those plays when we needed them at a different position. And now we're just going to ask him to use that skill set in a different manner. He's up to the task, and I'm looking forward to seeing him do it. I love him as a person, and I can't wait to just see him reap the rewards of his efforts, that he's made from when we walked off the field against Cornell a year ago to lining up against Lafayette this Saturday.
I'm assuming he's reaping the rewards of a different food plan this year as well. Is that a fair assumption?
No question. Going from number 45 to number 65 meant that he had to alter his calorie intake. So he's welcomed that. He looks good. He looks good for sure.
Well, he's certainly going to need the extra pounds based on what he's going to battle in the trenches. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball, Coach, because I think one of the most notable losses is Scott Valentes. And you know what he provided, not just on the field, but off the field. He probably made up his own statistical categories in ways that he contributed. How do you go about replacing somebody that was really the cornerstone of your defense?
Well, he was the cornerstone of our team. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, you look at the plays I've referenced the Harvard game, and you look at the plays that he made down the stretch for us in that game, whether it be on defense or on special teams, and then again against Brown. It's like Scott was the real deal last year, and for his entire career. And I don't know if you can have the expectation of one person replacing all that Scott did for us. We've got a good group of linebackers, Rocco Milia and Anthony Russos, that are going to be assuming those starting roles. And Anthony has played a lot of football for us. Rocco had a big pick 6 against Georgetown in week 2 last year. And so they're very much capable. We as coaches are hoping that that they can fill the void left by Scott, but it's gonna take an army to do so, and the 11 who are going to be out there come Saturday are willing and able. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Alex Felkins, another key ingredient last season in terms of the kicker position. I don't mean to rub it in terms of all the changes. This is what we do when we set the stage for the upcoming season. I'm warming you up a little bit. Trust me, it'll get easier as we move along.
Well, I want to see Anthony Russo make these plays. He's going to do it, and Rocco is. But now you're bringing up the kicking. Yeah, Hugo Mary's got to get it done. You know, Hugo Mary is a freshman from Virginia that has impressed all preseason, and we're looking forward to seeing him do it on Saturdays. It's tough to ask a freshman to go out there and perform in the first game, but Hugo's been up to task ever since he arrived, and so it's going to be fun to watch him trot out there, and hopefully it's for an extra point, the first one. But if it's a field goal, if it's a long field goal, I know he's going to be looking forward to doing it, and if he makes it, we're going to be on to the next, and if he doesn't, we're on to the next.
So we're going to see all of this on full display this Saturday against Lafayette. The Leopards, they already played 2 games, including a matchup against Duke. You have yet to get out there. How do you go about the challenge of having your team gear up for an opponent that already has had a bit of a warm-up act?
Sure. It's not easy, with them having worked out the game 1 kinks. They've been able to be on the road for 2 weeks and see what it's like staying in a hotel and having a walkthrough in a place that maybe they're not so used to, and just going about their business. They've been able to build up to now week 3 at home, and we have to get on the bus and we have to stay in the hotel and do those things. But we try to preach to the guys of being mentally tough, and that means being at our best regardless of the situation, and that wherever we're going to play, that's the goal, is to be at our best regardless. And so there are advantages and there's perceived advantages and disadvantages. And right now, we're going to play a game against Lafayette. They're going to line up with 11 guys on offense. We're going to line up with 11 guys on defense, and then vice versa. And until one team gets to play with 12 and the other gets to play with 11, there really is no true advantage. And so just looking forward to seeing our guys take the field against a really good football team.
Well, Coach, I'm excited to have you aboard. Congratulations and best of luck this weekend against Lafayette.
Thank you so much, Lance. I appreciate all that you do for us.
Absolutely. Mark Fabiish with us here on GoColumbiaLions.com. It's Columbia against Lafayette, 12:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. You can watch the game on ESPN Plus, and you can listen on GoColumbiaLions.com.